All right. Welcome, everyone, to what I hope will be a very fun and very interesting fireside chat. So, this one is from stage lights to streaming. I feel like we need jazz hands. Can the music industry lead a sustainable revolution? And on the phone with us, we have Dominic Richard Harrison, better known as Yungblud. We have Alice James, the head of product at AEG, Hanna Grahn, co-head for sustainability and climate action at Spotify, and Stephen Down, production director at Only Helix Yungblud Bludfest. God, that rolls off the tongue. So just sounds like we have a bit of delay. To my panelists sitting in the room, across streaming, festivals, shows, recording, how big is this industry's sustainability challenge? When you think about the different facets and factors at play, what are we looking at in this industry?
The touring's really challenging because we work tirelessly with our artists to build the best creative shows we can that are built as efficiently as they can, but inevitably, we can try and cut the trucks that we need and the people that we need to deliver these shows. But we're always going to need to be moving lots of people and sometimes many tons of equipment around. And then there's also the audience side of one of the largest impacts is audience travel to events. So it's quite a big challenge in our world.
What about from the streaming side?
Yeah, so I mean, we focus really on two areas, I would say, of that. So one is in terms of getting also us down to net zero, because streaming has an impact. So we work a lot with our different partners, kind of across the value chain in that sense. But the biggest impact we can have is, of course, through our platform. And I think, today, creativity and artists have such a powerful voice. So we work a lot with creators to try to bridge, and scientists to bridge and bring them together and really use base it on the facts and the science, but then make it more accessible to more people. So that's something we're working on as well.
Dom, as an artist, where do you see the power of your voice? So we had Hanna here speaking about the potential on Spotify, on their platforms to drive change through the artists. Where do you feel like you have power to drive change?
I think fundamentally it's within my platform, really. I think Yungblud as the community, as a culture, very quickly kind of became something that around the world became a voice for change in terms of it wasn't just about me. I think a lot of my fan base and my community kind of represent a new idea. And I feel like as an artist, you can kind of sit back and do what's kind of been done before. Because I think in a kind of a touring circuit, it's very easy to have things taken care of for you. And I think when it came to starting a festival, we wanted to start a festival that represented a new idea in terms of ticket pricing, in terms of kind of what I was hearing from my fan base in a new generation, what we care about. And I think the environment and our planet and our world is very much a part of. It's a very big conversation for kind of people within my fan base and within my generation, and what is going on right now. And I think with it all, my goal and my kind of target with this festival and with my brand is to kind of spread as much information and kind of be a voice for this in terms of any way I can. I think we are taking this festival internationally. We're going all over the world, and I think what made it kind of react so well was its message. And I think kind of my standpoint on it all is to kind of sit here and say, this is what I'm trying to do. This is what I want to achieve. And I've also got a lot to learn as well. And I think what is the biggest first step is kind of using my platform and saying, listen, this is what I believe in. This is what I want to do. And we can kind of educate and be educated. I think it's quite a scary thing, isn't it? You know what I'm saying? To to kind of say like I don't know everything, but it's not. I think that's where kind of people feel right now in the world, that like, how do I do better? How do I make a difference? And I think kind of asking for help, yet using your platform as much as you can is the way. Did you guys hear that? Sorry,
we hear you. So then let's talk in practicality terms. Stephen, when you are looking at the challenges you have moving this tour around, the amount of logistics, the carbon emissions, what do you do? What levers do you have to pull so that an audience that is interested in a more sustainable culture actually can attend a music festival that is more sustainable?
One of the things is design choices, and just say working with really good designers who are not only able to produce incredible looking shows, but that can compact down into and be lightweight and fit into less trucks, so that we can still do that while minimizing our impact. But one of the challenges we face there is we're still reliant on diesel vehicles, and there's options to use different fuel, but it's quite difficult using HVO fuel, which is it's challenging and it's financially difficult. Ideally, we want to be moving to battery trucks. Obviously EV cars are now everywhere, but the trucking side is quite far behind. We're probably 5 years at least away from having trucks that we can actually use in a touring world. Like, the trucks do exist, but they're too expensive. They have a limited range, and the charging network is insufficient. So we've got a long way to go in terms of infrastructure to try and help bring those. Even once we've minimised our package, we need to be moving to electric trucks as soon as possible.
I think the relationship with the promoter and the artist is also quite key here as well, because we are dealing with, on Bludfest, for example, we have 2 shows across 2 days. One of those shows is Bludfest, one is a different show. So we're looking at consolidating everything that we're doing to make sure we're meeting the needs of the artist ahead of just necessarily meeting the needs of both shows. So for us, it's really important that the relationship with the artist is clear, their expectations and the audience expectations are being met in a good way, and that we're using kind of new technology to push the boundaries of where we're at. From our side as AEG, we are doing a lot in the sustainability world. So some of you may know about Lido, which is our festival that's new this year. And it's going to be the first show that's full battery powered, which is a huge undertaking. Logistical difficulties, as you can imagine, but Massive Attack have been part of that and have been extremely good at kind of pushing the benchmark of where we can get to in shows. So that's a model that we're looking to roll out across other shows, which is very exciting.
Hanna, we heard a little bit from Dom about why he's embraced sustainability and what he thinks he can bring in terms of a voice of a generation that perhaps sees the world a little bit differently than even the millennials. Where else have you been successful in garnering that same sort of support and action from the artists that you're working with?
Yeah, I would say, both for artists, but other kind of content as well. So when I started at Spotify, I'm a very huge nerd. So I thought if we just put more science podcasts out there, people will listen to that and problem solved. But quickly realized we do have a lot of that already. So what we really need to do is to take it and adapt it to where people are. So that's something we work with a lot. And also too, because everyone is passionate about different pieces and everyone lives different lives in different parts of the world and so on. So it needs to be relevant for everyone. So what we do instead is, and that's why I also like what you're saying in terms of many people go to festivals or concerts and might not have a climate interest, but just seeing, okay, this is actually powered by batteries, or the food here that you get to taste it. And we try to do the same thing on our platform. So I don't know if people can guess, but what would you say is the #1 genre for podcasts globally? Any guesses? True crime. Good. Exactly. So globally, everyone loves that. So that's why we did took that and then made climate content, but with a true crime vibe. So everything from serial killers in natural parks to other kinds of crimes against nature, just to kind of bring it more to where people are. And then hopefully they start to get interested and then search for more information. So that's what we try to do.
Dom, when you think about the potential that your fans have to drive change, what excites you the most?
Wow, good question. I feel kind of a want to learn, really. I think and a closeness in communication. I feel like it's cool that people give a shit. I think that's a big change. You know what I'm saying? I think it's kind of cool. Like, it flipped, you know. I think when I kind of grew up and I was young, it was like it was cooler to be uneducated or just kind of be ignorant. And I think what's beautiful about a kind of my community a lot is and kind of growing up within a generation, I think people like check others on ignorance, and that's cool. I think it's something kind of not to be afraid of, you know. And I think it's really refreshing and really dope, you know. I think people care. People want to care. It's cool to care. And I think that's really I feel really lucky that kind of my community represent an idea like that, you know. And it gives me such a responsibility and gives us such a responsibility to kind of put our money where our mouth is. And this kind of, I think, from a younger standpoint, it's cool. I think, again, we talk about your Coldplays and your Massive Attacks, and I kind of really want to work hard to put that from a younger standpoint, because again, we all take influence of artists that we respect and that we love, and from things that we love. And I think if I can say this, then other artists can go, do you know what, I'm going to do that too, and then that will lead to others and others and others and others. It's like it's a long game, but I genuinely think if enough people kind of shout about it, we're going to be in a very different position in 5 years' time.
Outside of the fans who are clearly converted to the Yungblud top fans, we'll call them that for now.
Yes.
But Alice and Stephen, outside of that group of converted fans, do you see any risks that there are trade-offs to having a more sustainable music industry? Do you worry that you're going to lose something at concerts, or are older generations potentially complaining it's not the same as it was when they were there?
I think there was a really interesting study by a US company called Reverb, who sends sustainability ambassadors out on tours. And they had a rep on the Billie Eilish tour, and they had a rep on the Fleetwood Mac tour. And part of what they offer is they go to venues and they put stipulations in place for waste management streams, for, power, as in collecting data for power use, and all kinds of different things regarding like water use and things like that. But the other thing they do is they put a stand in the foyer. And what they found is at the Billie Eilish show, the fans would come up to the stand and say, we know about this, how can we help? What can we do? At the Fleetwood Mac show, people were going, what's this? Okay, that's nice, thank you. And then off they'd go. So it's I would say it's a positive look at the generational divide in awareness in sustainability. So that definitely gives me hope for the future. I think in general, though, the audiences that already know about it want to be told what they can do. And we need to be the pioneers to show them the framework for that. You know, okay, you care about this, so you need to do this, this, and this to make sure that you are traveling to the festival or show in the most sustainable way possible. We've obviously moved to paperless ticketing, and we don't allow that anymore. So that has forced a change that I don't think anyone's unhappy with. But obviously the older generation sometimes struggle with the apps and things like that. So yeah, there's definitely a generational difference in that, which shows us positivity for the future. But I think it's also about understanding your audience and how far you can go, because that younger generation, the ones going to festivals now, they are more than willing to take a trade-off. If there's maybe less food options, but they're more sustainable. If the serveware that they get is maybe not as robust, but they know that they can compost it. You know what I mean? It's those kinds of trade-offs. I think they are.
If their straws disintegrate, they're going to be fine.
Absolutely, they're fine with it. Yeah. So they are more than willing to make those trade-offs, whereas other audiences might not be. But I think us as a company, you know, we're trying to push that wherever we go. So the O2 Arena has a green rider now. So we specify to artists coming through, this is what we expect from you. And I think it's about us in the industry showing the framework and saying, this is what we expect. You need to meet us somewhere in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah. It's asking the right questions as well.
Yeah, for sure.
In that respect. But yeah,
it's funny, isn't it? It's funny, isn't it? It's just like we always say that, like, you know, I mean, gigs are going to change. Things are going to change. It's going to get like this, and that's where it is. And people can kind of be pissed about it, but it's just like the past didn't make an effort, and now we're more fucked. So we have to, and that's it. Let's ride with it. Sorry, you know what I mean? From my perspective, I'm like, sick. Let's do it. Gigs will change. Like, people complain about iPhones going up, but that's the modern times. You know what I mean? If we're in like Woodstock or whatever, it'd be different. But now we're not. We're here. We're in 2025, and this is how gigs are. And like, we got to make a difference. We got to do it, or there won't be gigs anymore.
Stephen, I know you also had something to add. That's all right. It's hard. Don't worry about it. All good.
All good. I was just going to say the food one is an interesting one because I think people are turned off by vegetarian food quite a lot of the time. Certainly, I think the Fleetwood Mac crowd probably more than the Billie Eilish crowd. But that may be because
nothing against Fleetwood Mac or their fans. Love all of them.
I was just thinking about my mum. So it's actually if the food option, you can have vegetarian food options, but make them really good. So rather than it being like, here's your sausage and your burger, and then here's a crappy veggie option. I think people tend to think about it like that. But if we can make 3 amazing vegetarian options and really think about providing excellent food, people will buy into that, and then you won't get that. You'll be able to get all the generations buying into that. And if you can do I think the Massive Attack, like the show in Bristol, Act 1.5, they did only vegan, I think, and they used locally sourced produce. So they really cut down the carbon footprint of the food on site for the whole audience, and it was a huge success. So I think there'll be big buy-in at other festivals from what they did.
Yeah. And what is interesting with that is as well that I like festivals and concerts and so on because it's kind of a micro society, which is a little bit more sustainable than the real society because you need to be more mindful with resources, especially if it's on-site festival with water and so on. And I think also people are a little bit more open to try those kind of things. And we've been part of also looking at what kind of behaviors actually sticks. And they were surprised with how much actually people change behaviors than when they get home to their normal life. So it has an important role to play in that regard.
I think also going back to Dom's point before is that the artist does have a voice in this, and there's a sense of trust from the audience to the artist. Like, that relationship is very important usually to the audience members that attend a show. So if the artist is leading by example and saying, this is what we want to do, the audience are much more likely to consider that as a behavior they want to adopt than had it come from somewhere else, let's say government or something like that. You know what I mean? Because that's a trusted relationship that already exists. So I think that has a big part to play as well.
Yep.
Is that why historically music has been such a kind of starter of cultural revolutions? So now we have the chance to kind of make music the starter of a sustainability revolution. Is that sort of what you're getting at?
Yeah, I think music has always been a place of cultural change, regardless. Like, there's always been strong, like, diversity. There's always been kind of, I don't want to say hedonism, but you know what I mean? The Woodstocks and the Glastonburys and all of these shows, they kind of always created this environment where you can be whoever you want. And that has permeated through leading cultural change. And I think artists doing this creates a movement that people can get behind because it doesn't feel like you're being told by government frameworks or whatever what to do. You're just following your idols, which is so powerful. And I think you're right. Music can be at the forefront of that.
So have we missed a trick in this entire conference that instead of having business leaders on the stage and former secretaries of state, we should be having 5 DOMs standing up here telling everyone this is where the world is going.
Next year,
I think
all the
There you
artists.
go.
Yeah. I really think we need a combination as well, because that's why, for example, Coldplay is doing good as well. I mean, the artists are there to make people interested in the first place, but then they always also refer to, okay, look at the scientists, then they know what you can do, and here you have more details and so on. But it's great to see that it feels like, especially in the last year, that artists have started to realize that they have such a powerful voice, and it's super encouraging to hear also what you're doing, but then also work with the scientists in terms of what we actually need to do. So yeah, I think that balance has been struck really well last year. So I'm excited about what's going to happen this year as well.
Okay. All right. Questions from the audience. We don't tend to have famous music stars on screen. So anyone have any thoughts, any questions for the group here? Oh no, they're all stunned silent. They're worried about the future cultural revolution. So then let me ask you, so how do you think that we can... Oh, there is one. Sorry, I can't see that far.
Love this discussion. Question related to education. There's something that you talked about, behavioral change, which is fantastic, but there's also something about empowering the consumer with information, understanding that this is how much plant-based cappuccino costs in terms of CO2 versus a cup of tea versus, I don't know, a hamburger, and then letting them choose and then take that information back and change that behavior within obviously their own households, but also communities. So giving them information rather than forcing that change in them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. I think the challenge comes from, especially if you're looking at a festival, you have lots and lots of different traders. They're all on site and they all have an individual kind of business. So you could, from a festival standpoint, put a stipulation in, and maybe this is a few years off, but you could put a stipulation in that if you would like to be a trader on X, Y, and Z festival site, you have to meet these requirements. And now that exists already in terms of sustainability requirements, but what doesn't exist is an education piece saying that if you are coming on site, you have to tell the audience member exactly what the carbon footprint is of your product for each one. So it's a good point. Maybe it's something we should look at. For sure.
What do you ever think about, to follow up on that, as someone's listening to something on Spotify, one of those National Park true crime podcasts? This is the carbon footprint of what it took to make this podcast. Would that be something people would be interested in?
Yeah, I mean, we have the data for all of that, because of course we want to get to net zero, and it's key for us to understand as well. So we have, together with also, it's a UK organization that work with to try to map what's the impact from streaming of audio, but also other types of media. So we know what the different stages are from kind of end use to what we do as well in our internal processes when we do that. So yeah, we do have that information.
Maybe have a thought on that.
Yep.
All right, Dom, I want to give you the last word. If you had to give the room a piece of advice for how they should go out and help you push a more sustainable world, what piece of advice would you give them?
Wow, that is a big question. I just think, I just think communication. Really, that's the only way I've known. I think conversation, whether kind of like we like it or not, needs to happen. You know, I think like you can't necessarily push an idea onto people. Everyone's got to like have a choice, but people can be open to the idea of a different thing by communication. You know what I'm saying? Again, what we were talking about earlier about giving people a choice to kind of look at within our means and within like our festivals or within our kind of wherever the fuck you work. You know what I mean? I think like providing an option to be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to try that. I'm going to look into that. I think even on our tours, like we implemented the idea of only one meat meal a day. Normally, you know what I mean? I think when we have catering, there were 3 meat meals a day, and the amount of waste that was happening. And I think that's such a daunting thing, isn't it? For kind of like, because it's not been done before, but then you kind of like provide someone an option to have like aubergine fucking lasagna instead of like normal lasagna, and you're all like, yeah, cool, sick, and you all kind of get on board with it. You know what I mean? I think conversation, communication, and allowing people to kind of come to an idea on their own terms, but by kind of hearing it, I think like the one thing I've said with it all, you can't preach to people and be like, this is it, this is the way it should be, or people kind of human nature to be like, yeah, whatever, man. I think if, in terms of reality, I think with it all, it's all about, again, like as an artist or whatever the hell that means, me being like, yo, this is what I want to do, this is what I believe in the same way that like what I wear, you know what I'm saying? If I say that it's what I believe in, this is what I write my songs about, this is what I sing about, it's communication to a community. So yeah, communicate, even if it gets you into an argument, you know what I mean? It's fun.
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to keep communicating as a group, but thank you so much. Thank you, Dom. And thank you to the panel.
Thank you so much. Cheers for having me. Have a kick-ass day. Look.